And Philip with Workforce Wisdom, and today we're going to talk about flight simulators and their impact on our workforce. The flight instructor came into the flight simulation room one day with all the would-be pilots, and he asked a curious question. Why do we use flight simulators so much in teaching people how to fly? Now, some of the answers are obvious, like it's safer and less costly, but the instructor gave them this answer. In the moment of crisis, you're not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to default to your training. We're in somewhat of a workforce crisis today, and so therefore we're defaulting to our workforce development training, which is what? And what does that look like? Well, in today's world, there really aren't any experts in the field of workforce development. We feel better if we join a group called workforce development because we aren't going to be in this alone, and it appears to be less risky, and therefore it will mitigate the potential losses and also hinder the potential gains. Well, we would rather blend in with a group and not fail alone, and one of the problems of today's workforce groups is that we're typically like-minded and risk-averse. And why is that important? Well, today's leaders must understand that they're going to have to change their plans, give up their expectations, even reframe their entire mission. It isn't really about schools and businesses developing a plan to get more kids into the trades. That's our default setting. We fall back to doing what we know. We're trying to work harder at convincing kids and their parents that they can have just as good a life in the trades as they would if they went to college. The problem is our default setting hasn't been working for decades, which in part is why we have some of the crisis in our workforce. Yesterday's solutions have created today's problems. There are at least 3 different default settings in today's workforce development strategies. 1, we gather as a large group and develop programs for vocational education to fill in the skills gap. 2, we put on events that highlight those vocational programs with local businesses. And 3, we try to convince parents that college isn't really for everyone. Well, Ed Friedman states, conceptually stuck systems cannot become unstuck simply by trying harder. For a fundamental reorientation to occur, that spirit of adventure which optimizes serendipity and which enables new perceptions beyond the control of our thinking processes must happen first. Our workforce development system is stuck right now. We're facing things that our generation hasn't seen before, and the solutions of our past won't work. In the words of Todd Bolsinger, author of Canoeing the Mountains, the world ahead of us is not like the world behind us. So what are the next steps? 1, we need to build trust with all stakeholders and not build our own agendas. 2, leaders now have to experience and navigate profound loss. We must make hard choices in what to preserve and what to let go. Many times the path to success isn't in what we learn, but rather in what we unlearn. So we need to stop trying to salvage the system and be willing to lose some or all of our status, power, and control. And that is the human condition, and that's what creates most of our problems and hinders our ability to move forward successfully. A study on this can be seen between the Wright brothers and Samuel Pierpont Langley. One group had a passion and was led by learning. The other had money thrown at them, but they lacked the passion for adventure and learning. Which group won? Well, I think we all know which group won. We know the Wright brothers came out on top. If leadership of any kind, for any reason, doesn't know what to do, the best thing to do is admit that and lead the learning process. But this is going to require new actions. We have to become true learners in order to become better leaders. We need to be willing to be transformed and have our default totally reset. If we can do this and not care who gets the credit, perhaps we can take an adventure together and improve the status of our workforce. All of us need a new default setting. God knows I do. And so why not work together and take a new adventure in 2022 in the workforce development world?